The Galactic Conclave had not been silent in 400 years. Until now. The great dome chamber of Orith Station floated at the neutral center of the known galaxy, a monument to diplomacy, compromise, and the careful art of not dying. Representatives from 63 species sat in tiered rings around a central platform. Tall Vethari diplomats with their crystalline skin. The broad, slug-like Mran delegates draped in ceremonial silk. The gas cloud beings of the Yalari collective pulsing softly in their containment spheres. And in the lowest ring, as always, the humans. Lieutenant Colonel James Hawkins of the United States Space Command sat rigid in his chair, dressed in his pressed black uniform, the American flag patch on his shoulder catching the chamber's white light. Beside him sat Ambassador Douglas Reed, a broad-shouldered Texan with silver hair and the kind of calm that came only from surviving things that should have killed him. They had been called here because humanity had committed an offense. Grand Speaker Vethiz of the Vethari Dominion rose to speak, its crystalline fingers pressed together in formal posture. The human vessel USS Resolute entered the Kale corridor without authorization, Vethiz announced, its translated voice echoing cold through the chamber. They engaged 3 Dreth warships. They destroyed 2 of them. This is an act of war against a conclave-protected species. Murmurs rippled across the chamber. The Dreth delegation, 8-limbed, armored creatures with compound eyes, chittered loudly from the upper ring. Their speaker slammed a limb on the railing. The Deathworlders must be sanctioned. Their military access must be revoked. They are dangerous. More voices joined. 60 species, most of them nodding, most of them afraid. Humanity had always made the galaxy nervous. A species from a planet that should have killed them 1,000 times over, high gravity, volatile atmosphere, predator-filled oceans, tectonic violence, and yet here they were. Expanding. Growing. Not stopping. Ambassador Reed did not move. Hawk watched the room and said nothing. They were waiting. What the Conclave did not know, what they chose not to know, was why the USS Resolute had entered the Kale corridor. Hawk pulled up the holographic record on the central platform without asking permission. The room fell quiet as the footage played. A colony transport. Human registry. The MV Independence, carrying 4,000 civilians, men, women, and children, from the outer settlement of New Houston. Engine failure in the corridor. Distress beacon broadcasting for 11 hours. 3 Dreth warships arriving not to assist, but to raid. The footage showed the Dreth vessels cutting into the transport's hull while it was still occupied. Stealing cargo. Leaving the civilians to suffocate in the void. Then the USS Resolute arrived. What followed was not a battle. It was a reckoning. Captain Marcus Stonewall had brought his ship in at full burn, guns hot, and he had not transmitted a single warning. Because the Resolute sensors had already confirmed 42 civilians were dead in the breach. Marcus Stone was not a man who issued warnings after 42 of his people were already gone. The chamber was silent again. Ambassador Reed stood slowly. He buttoned his jacket. He looked around the room, not with anger, not with fear, with something quieter and far more unsettling. "We have been patient," he said simply. "For 30 years, humanity has sat in the lowest ring of this chamber. We have followed your treaties. We have restricted our expansion. We have asked permission to exist in space that we mapped ourselves." He let that sit. 4,000 civilians. 11 hours of distress signals. Not one Conclave vessel responded. He paused. "We did." Vethiz started to object. Reed raised one hand, just one, and the Grand Speaker stopped. Captain Stone saved 3,900 lives. He destroyed 2 vessels that were actively committing murder. And you called us here to be sanctioned. He picked up his datapad and set it flat on the table. That is our resignation from the non-aggression compact. Effective immediately. The silence that followed lasted 11 seconds. Historians would later record it precisely, because those 11 seconds changed everything. Then Hawke stood beside his ambassador, and every human delegate in the chamber stood with him. 60 people, all at once, without a signal, without a word. Just standing. The Mron delegate whispered to its aide, they moved together. Like a single organism. The Yolari sphere pulsed deep red, the color their species displayed when experiencing something it had no category for. The Dreth delegation backed toward the exit. Douglas Reed straightened his cuffs and spoke one final time. We didn't come to this galaxy asking to be feared. We came asking to belong. He glanced once at the Dreth. You taught us the difference doesn't matter. Humanity walked out of the conclave that day. They did not walk back in for 6 years. And when they did, every species in that chamber was already standing when the humans arrived. Some lessons, the galaxy only needs to learn once.